Hello, everyone. My name is Francine Witte. Welcome to Paul Beckman's F-Bomb Zoom reading, international and national flash fiction reading. Tonight, we have several readers. We're going to be celebrating the new book by Zvi Sesling, Secrets Behind the Gate from Trevena Barva Press, which is a wonderful press we all love. And then we'll hear some other readers. So I'm going to turn it over to Zvi. I'm going to introduce Zvi, turn it over to him. He'll introduce his readers. I'm one of them. And then when he's done, I'll take over again and we'll hear from the rest of the readers. Okay, and welcome, and we're glad to have all of you. So we'll start out with Zvi Sesling, Poet Laureate of Brookline, Mass., 2017 to 2020, has published poetry and flash fiction in numerous magazines nationally and internationally in print and online. He was awarded first prize in the Reuben Rose International Poetry Competition and was featured reader at the 2019 Jewish Poetry Festival in Brookline, Mass. He is a regular reviewer for the Boston Small Press and Poetry Scene and is editor of the Muddy River Poetry Review and 10 by 10 flash fiction stories. His poetry has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize 5 times. He is author of Simple Game and Ghosts of Fenway baseball poems, War Zones, which was nominated for the Mass Center for the Book Poetry Award, The Lynching of Leo Frank, nominated for both the National Jewish Poetry Book Award and the Mass Center for the Poetry Book Award, Fire Tongue and King of the Jungle, which was nominated for the Massachusetts Poetry Book Award. He has published 2 chapbooks, Love Poems from Hell and Across Stones of Bad Dreams. His flash fiction chapbook is Wheels, while his full volume flash fiction is Secret Behind the Gate, which is what he's talking about tonight. He has a BS in journalism from Boston University and a JD from Suffolk Law School. Sesling taught at Suffolk University, Emerson College, and Boston University. He lives in Chestnut Hill, Mass. With his wife, Susan J. Decter. And I will just say, parenthetically, Zvi said, you can cut it if you want, but it's like, when am I going to cut? You know, it's all good stuff. So, very accomplished man we have here. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Zvi Sesling.
Thank you very much. I have 4 readers that I'm going to introduce tonight. First will be Niles Reddick, next Andrea Marcusa, then Francine Witte, and finally hitting cleanup like Babe Ruth will be Paul Beckman. And I selected these 4 because they've all been in my magazine 10 by 10 flash fiction. So we'll start off with Niles Reddick, who is the author of a novel, 3 collections, and a novella. His work has been featured in over 30 collections and anthologies and, believe it or not, 500 magazines and journals, including the Saturday Evening Post, PIF, New Reader, Fourth, Citron Review, Right Hand Pointing, Nunham, and Vestal Review. He is a 5-time Pushcart, a 2-time Best Micro nominee, and 2-time Best of the Net nominee. His newest flash collection, If Not For You, was recently released by Big Table Publishing. Okay, and so here's Niles.
Thank you, Zvi. Can you all hear me okay? I just have one very brief piece I'm going to read. It's actually stupid. I don't even know why I wrote this or where it'll land, but they all land somewhere, right? And then I want to read a piece by Zvi and explain why I like this piece. The title of this is called Hoopla. I rode that Christmas wave with a smile that only a seasoned thespian could, until I pulled into my garage, rolled the suitcase into the bedroom, and carried the huge Christmas bag stuffed with gifts to the kitchen by the trash can so I could sift through them and decide what to toss. First, though, I drank cough syrup in the cabinet to ease the annoying repetitive cough I picked up at Nana's condo. At 82 degrees on the thermostat, the gas fireplace blazing, and the weather in the sunshine state of Florida a whopping 75 degrees, I vowed next year I'd fly direct from Atlanta to Jackson Hole, Denver, or Salt Lake and find myself in a Hallmark setting, ski some slopes and snuggle by a real blazing fire with a cup of hot chocolate sprinkled with marshmallows. One by one, I filled the lemon-scented garbage bag. First and foremost, I tossed the red and white striped flannel pajamas Nana gave us, so we could all squeeze into them for a family photo she'd share on Facebook, mostly for her remaining first cousins, her high school friends, and her condo association. Her friend list under 300 now and dwindling. The pajama sizes were what she had jotted down in her address book on her nightstand a few years back, and our sizes had increased like inflation. Fortunately, I was able to pose partly behind my sister's third husband, Mel, who's taking radiation and chemo pills for a spot on his lung, but that doesn't stop him from sneaking onto the patio for a smoke when my sister is in the restroom or kitchen. Poor Mel might not make it for the pajama picture next year, but he'll be free of my sister, giving rest in peace a whole new meaning, and she'll be on the hunt for her fourth. Right after the annual Christmas photo, we latched on to each other at the hips, creating a human chain of fools, and danced around the Christmas tree. Nana scratched Rocking Around the Christmas Tree single by Brenda Lee blaring on her stereo. I don't even recall why or when we'd started that tradition, but it made Nana happy, and she kicked up her heels as best she could. She was thrilled the song had finally hit #1. She said she always knew it would one day. The next day, though, Nana could barely move, and she said she needed to visit her chiropractor as soon as his office opened. Next, I tossed the homemade lye soap our tightwad uncle gave everyone, but his antique flea market find was layered with old dust, and when relatives smelled it, they sneezed. He couldn't see anything up close since his cataract surgery. I kept the perfume set from Cousin Anne. She and I were the same age, had spent a lot of time together when we were young, and stayed close through the years like best friends. But I tossed the Danish cookies in a tin from the dollar store, along with the giant oven mitt that could only grip part of a hot dish out of the oven. I wasn't even sure who gifted those treasures. I also tossed the beef jerky one of my nephews made from a fresh deer kill near the Everglades. Oh, I appreciated the thoughts, one and all, and the protein in the dried meat, but I had never been able to chew jerky, not with my expensive dental work I hope to keep for some years to come. I decided to send them all a New Year's card, expressing my gratitude and wishing them a happy New Year ahead, how I hoped they'd visit, knowing they wouldn't, and how I was excited I'd been invited to ski with my work family next Christmas, hoping I could prepare them in advance so they wouldn't badmouth me too much. I made a resolution to keep up with Nana more by phone and on social media, because once she was gone, that would be the end of the candy cane pajamas and the rest of the hoopla. Thank you. And here is Zvi's latest work. I don't know if you can, let's see, I'm trying to get it in the camera there. Secret Behind the Gate. Did it show up for everyone who hasn't seen it? I hope you'll get a copy. I'm just going to read. He didn't ask me to read one of his, but I wanted to read one of these, and I'm going to read. It's actually the first one in the collection. I love this story because it's a takeoff from Janis Joplin's music. And of course, I love Janis Joplin, but other artists also did this song. I think Chris Christopherson did the song, and several others. But the title as freedom is not just another word. Pigs are reported to be the smartest. Oh, and the other reason I like this is because it's about pigs. And I've been craving pork. You know, I can't eat pork because pork causes gout. And I will have periodic gout if I were to eat pork. But anyway, I would love to have some barbecue right now. It's hard to live outside Memphis and not eat barbecue, as V knows. Pigs are reported to be the smartest of barnyard animals, and female pigs smarter than males. So it makes sense that a 280-pound sow being transported to the slaughterhouse worked her way out of the back of the trailer, transporting it to a future as a platter of bacon or as the ham centerpiece of the family dinner. This sow bobbed and weaved her way through backyards like a star running back, eluding her captors and then the police, who, like the Canadian Mounties, wanted to prove they could get their man or pig. Finally, the corpulent porker ran out of strength, her legs wobbly, her grunts deeper. Just lay down. And when roped like a cow, she squealed like the pig. She was dragged back to her inevitable fate, learning a lesson rock and roll fans have never learned. Freedom is not just another word, and there is something left to lose. And though that's very short and a flash piece, I think it carries a lot of truth, which is what you find in all of Zvi's work. You find a kernel of truth there. Thank you.
Thank you, Niles. That was great. I have to tell you, I don't eat pork either, but for a different reason than you. So next up is Andrea Marcusa, whose writings have appeared in the Gettysburg Review, River Teeth, New Flash Fiction Review, Citron Review, and others. She's received recognition in a range of competitions, including Smoke Long, Cleaver, Raleigh Review, and Southampton Review. She's a member of the faculty at the Writers Studio, where she also studies in the school's masterclass with poet and founder Philip Schultz. For more information, you can visit AndreaMarcusa.com or see her on Twitter at @D_Marcusa, and you can see her right here tonight in person.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. It's great to kick off the year here. I was looking forward to it after all the craziness of a few weeks. And tonight I'm going to read just a very short, my 5-minute story. And it's called Saltwater Taffy. And it's really sort of hot off the presses. So any feedback, I'd be happy to hear. Okay, Saltwater Taffy. We spend our last hour in Mom's house, in her room, flopped on our king-size bed, while Alexa plays Mom's latest music obsession, Taylor Swift. My shoulders sink into a pile of pillows. Nikki curls like a shrimp beside me. I scrunch up my knees so my gym shoes scuff the duvet. She's still here, I say. She's flying around, flipped out about her daughters, lying on her snowy white duvet with our shoes on. I pull open the drawer to her bedside table and find an old, barely paged-through Bible, the one a priest gave her as a girl in 1960, and some ancient letters from Nikki and me back before email. One is a drawing of a tiny stick figure girl and a huge mother wearing long dangly earrings, carrying a hefty purse and pressing a phone to her ear. Above them both, I've drawn a huge red heart. Taylor croons, I'm the only one of me. I dig further into the drawer and find 3 pairs of rhinestone-studded readers that I never saw her wear. On the table rest 4 half-read books, cringy romance titles like The Court of the Mist and Fury, Radiance, the Kiss Quotient, each with a bookmark made of feathers. On the bottom of the stack lies a self-help book on parent-adult-child relationships that looks unread and is overdue at the library by 2 years. I move to the second drawer and find an embroidered handkerchief with drops of dried blood that I touch, letting my index finger rest on them, remembering how Mom's cheeks always flushed in the cold and after a glass of wine. Almost presciently, Taylor sings, "We all bleed red, we all taste rain, all fall down, lose our way." And I push the handkerchief into my jeans, unsure of what I'll do with it, and reach back into the drawer. There's a crystal unicorn with its horn broken off, several prisms, like the ones hanging from the window that in sunlight make rainbows on the walls. I tried to tell Nikki about this force I feel lying here that is pushing me down and filling me up at the same time so I can barely breathe. Nikki nods and rolls over onto her back and stares upwards as if the answer might be in the blue color Mom had specially mixed for her bedroom ceiling. Finally, I say that if I were to meet Mom as a peer, that we might have been friends because she could be so interesting and entertaining. But as a mom, she was shitty. And how was it that the universe didn't send us someone more loving, understanding, selfless? And then I feel Mom looking down on me in her room that still smells of the verbena soap she used, an aroma that, like her, I know will fade in time. So I dig further back in the drawer, looking for something more to hold on to, some tangible evidence of our connection, that she and I were here together, mother and daughter. And I discover a half full box of saltwater taffy, like we used to get at the Jersey Shore. Nikki and I both sit up and start pulling out pieces, unwrapping the pinks, yellows, blues, pale greens, and gorging on the sugary gooiness. We eat her candy like we haven't had a meal in days, and like we are doing it behind her back and could get caught at any moment and spanked. And then I imagine Mom walking in and plopping herself on the bed with us, thrusting her hand into the box, fishing around until she seized her favorite flavor, chocolate. And that's when I look at Nikki and see her mouth full of taffy. Taylor sings, "Goodbye, goodbye, you were bigger than the sky." And tears start running down Nikki's face, and then mine begin. And I reach over and hug my sister. The sun hits the collection of prisms, and rainbows light up the wall, and we hug and cry and comfort each other like we always have when Mom was flying somewhere for work, or busy with all her friends, or away with her boyfriend, or just napping with her door closed tight. And the saltiness of my tears. And Nikki and I hug and hug, the gooiness melting, flooding the back of our throats until it stings. Thanks. Oh, and then I asked him if I was supposed to read something, and he told me no.
Yeah,
So
I was
I-
telling everybody, don't read my stuff.
But I did find on the internet about 5 minutes ago
Ah,
something called My Congressman. Is that in your most recent collection?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to read this. I've never read it before, so bear with me. My Congressman. My Congressman, Wilbert H. Flexmeyer III, is a decent sort, I guess. He keeps 2 suburban offices in his district and 1 in Washington. Flexmeyer III is a multimillionaire, having inherited his fortune from Flexmeyer H., who inherited it from the first Flexmeyer. Anyway, I am in Washington, D.C. for a baseball card show, planning to sell my Hall of Fame player cards for all I can get. After I check in at the hotel, I hail a cab to the Capitol and get directions to Flexmeyer III's office, which as a chairman of a committee allows him to have a large space with windows and not too far from the cafeteria, which is good because Flexmeyer III is a big fellow, not in height, but in weight, nearly 300 pounds of flesh on a 5'9" frame. He is known to have a pretty girl or two on his arm and to consume voluminous amounts of food before taking one or two of the pretty women back to his townhouse in Georgetown. Being rich, Flexmeyer III, whom his friends and fellow congressmen call Flex, drops a few hundred on food and drink and usually gives the women a few hundred to go buy what he calls baubles. The women seen in his company at Washington's finest restaurants work in his office, so I decide to visit his office not so much to see the women, but to bring my petition signed by more than 500 people to get federal money to redo the intersection at Beacon and Harvard Streets. After following directions, I enter Flexmeyer III's office and I'm greeted by about a dozen women, some blondes and maybe a half dozen brunettes and one redhead. They are all great looking, especially since they are wearing bikinis. They all smile and in unison ask, "How can I help you?" "I'd like to speak with Congressman Flexmeyer," I tell them. "That's not possible. He's in the Caribbean with Secretary number 8, replies the one in the blue bikini. "Next week he'll be in Cancun with me," she says proudly. "When will he be available?" "Oh, in 3 or 4 weeks." "Does he ever work or vote?" Another secretary answers, "Oh, we keep in constant contact with the congressman and we vote by remote control. We tell him the issue before the House and he says how to vote and we push an aye or a nay button." "What if you can't reach him?" "Oh, if he's unavailable, we just take a vote here and the majority wins. We push the appropriate button," a brunette says. I think I am dreaming. A room full of bikini-clad beauties and a missing congressman, and the beauties do the voting when he's not around. I wonder what his district back home in Mississippi will think of all of this, though I imagine the men will not care, even though the secretaries in his Mississippi offices are all dressed prim and proper. They all wear eyeglasses too. Washington gals have long, shoulder-length hair. The local ones all have short hair. Anyway, here I am in Washington with this bevy of beauties, and Flexmeyer III is off somewhere with one of his secretaries. Eeny, meeny, miny.
Thank you, Andrea. It's one of my favorites. Make fun of the politicians. I think Niles laughed when you mentioned Mississippi. He knows what it's like down there. Anyway, our next reader is one and only Francine Witte, whose newest book of flash fiction is called Radio Water and is due out in a few weeks from Roadside Press. She is flash fiction editor of Flash Boulevard and the South Florida Poetry Journal, and she lives in New York City. Poor girl.
Thank you. Thank you, Zvi, and congratulations on your new book. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my cousin, who I'm going to embarrass them now, my cousin Carol Sessler, who's here. She did the cover for this, the wonderful painter, and she did the cover for this. These are 2 of my books, and she's just fabulous, and she's going to kill me. And also my aunt, who is Carol's mother, who is going to, Miriam Mandel, who's going to be 99 at the end of the month. So I just want to give a shout out to her. Yeah. And beautiful as always, even though you can't see her. So I'm going to read a few stories. This first one's called Everything You Didn't Know About Everything. Like Australia, you didn't know it was on the other side of the world. What did you think down under meant? And then there's syrup. You didn't know that maple comes from trees. And when you said, slow down, girl, that syrup doesn't grow on trees. And I said, well, actually. And presents. You need to know it was never too late, and it doesn't have to be a birthday. And text, even one filled with balloon emojis, doesn't count as a present. Sometimes I think you need an encyclopedia. Oh, yeah, an encyclopedia is a book about everything. It's a book so big, it's in more than 20 parts, and it's what we did before Google. Each part is a letter, except for the XYZ, because there aren't enough XYZ things, so they stick them all together in one book. And it's like one of those women you see on the bus with too many children and only one lap. And the L book really looks like it ought to be about love because that's how little you know. Take out lemons and London and leprechauns, stick them all in the XYZ book, and let L be just about love. You could have pages about how you don't tell your girlfriend to go on ahead because you pretend forget your wallet and want to go back to the restaurant to get the Towsley waitress's number. Another page about lying and how it always comes out. Like when we go back the next week to the restaurant and the Towsley waitress asks if you want the usual and we've only been there that one time before. And really, maybe it's me who needs the encyclopedia, one that would explain everything for me, most recently, where the hell you went last night. This one's called I Could Tell You Things About Bill, not Bill Merklee. Okay, so just forget that. I could tell you things about Bill, like how he says it's architect, and I'm not allowed to correct. If I try to correct, he says I'm a government puppet, and where the hell is my wire? He pats my blouse to check for himself, but ha, he'll never find it. The FBI is good like that. Tape me up just right. They want me to get Bill to admit how he was behind the building blow up on 3rd Street, glass and concrete blowing out like a piñata. I'm plying dear Bill with tequila, and he's nothing but architect. Star witness me, and Bill is looking at 10 years, maybe 20. That's enough to smack the cute off of him. Look at him trying to wiggle himself out, saying the building was brittle bones like it was built to fall down, how it was nothing for him to blow it up, and he's glad he did. And he couldn't have done it without the help of the architect. And I can't help but wonder if that's what he was whispering in Arlene's ear when I caught the two of them in bed last night. Not that there's a theme going here, but okay. This one's called Snout Face. Not now, but soon, I will be leaving Busby. Busby's whose eyes are dark marbles, whose eyes don't meet mine anymore. His face is long like a bear face, his mouth wide and gaping like he could swallow a salmon whole. Soon it will be the barren season, dry and famine, like a town up north where starving polar bears invade, just clomping down Main Street, nosing into garbage cans, and the people adjust by leaving their car doors open for pedestrians to dive into. No one blames a bear for being a bear. So I can't blame Busby for being Busby. I knew he was snort and prowl when I met him. Now I leave my heart open so he can dive in any time. Like when he's lost another job because his boss was a dick or some other Busby logic. But soon, not now, not today, I will get tired of it all, get tired of being flipped and flapped in Busby's snout mouth. I will restart myself in barge mode, adapt myself for a long, hungry winter, curl up in the hand of my own hungry heart. And this last one I'm going to read now, I did not understand the assignment, so I'm not reading one of Zvi's, but I will read one that he published in his wonderful 10 by 10. And this is called Lover Trees. The forest knows all about them. The forest being the other trees, the scampery bunnies, the rock knots sitting by the gurgly streams. The forest knows about the lover trees smack in the middle that somehow stay rooted but move towards each other at night. The whole forest knows, but not the people. The people who wander through each day and scatter home before the lowering sun cuts spatters of light through it all. An owl shows up, perches itself nearby, hoots its owly warning at the lover trees, which inch closer towards one another. They'll cut you both down, he warns the lover trees, or put you together in a museum. The lover trees need each other too much to listen. They whisper comfort, say things like, we didn't do anything. Their barks against each other now, their leaves mingled, their branches entwined. But then, one day, a hiker, tired and wanting to feel the night gauze of the forest, he uncurls his bedroll right between the lover trees before they've had a chance to move. What a spot, the hiker says into the air. The lover trees look at each other. I could come here every night, the hiker continues, maybe even build a tiny house. The hiker smiles and beds himself down. Above all this, the stars. Around all this, the forest. All of it watching the lover trees, separate and still, their pain breathing into the sky. Thank you. And once again, congratulations, Zvi.
And thank you, Francine. That's great. I'm waiting to read your new book too. So the reason I referred to Paul Beckman as sort of batting forth as the Babe Ruth is because everything he writes is like a home run. It's just amazing. And his flash collection, Kiss Kiss, the Truth Serum Press, was a finalist for the 2019 Indie Short Story Award competition, and he was nominated by Citron Review for Best Microfiction 2020 and had a micro story selected for the 2018 Norton Anthology New Micro Exceptionally Short Fiction. He was one of the winners of the 2016 Best Small Fictions, and his story, Mom's Goodbye, was chosen as the winner for the 2016 Fiction Southeast Editors Prize. He's been published in the following magazines, among others: Raleigh Review, Litero Playboy, Pank, X-Ray Literary Magazine, Ghost Parachute, Matter Press, Jellyfish Press Review, Thrice Fiction, Spelk, Red Fez, and Literary Orphans. His latest flash book is called Becoming Merklee. And if I may brag for a minute, Paul and I are doing the book together, and it'll be out sometime in the spring. And it's one of my great honors is to be able to write with Paul. So with no further ado, here is Paul Beckman.
You know, see, I can't live up to that introduction, so why don't you just read it again? Thank you. Sound okay? Showbiz. The alarm sounded violently, and automatically I rolled over and tapped the snooze button to get my 10 minutes extra. But it went off again, so I hit the snoozer again, only harder this time. Through one bleary eye, I saw 2 o'clock on the digital and couldn't figure out why the alarm was going off. The damn thing rang again, so I gave it a solid right that knocked it off the nightstand and into the wall. I felt Trudy's arm reach across my head as she said, "It's the phone, you moron." She picked up the receiver and the cord whipped across the bridge of my nose as she rolled back onto her side of the bed. "Hello," she said anxiously, and then covering the mouthpiece, she said nothing. Was actually dumbstruck for 30 seconds, but finally managed to stage whisper, "Marty, it's Steven Spielberg." Ask him how Amy is, I said. Through clenched teeth, Trudy let me know they were no longer married. He wants to talk to you. Tell him to stop bothering me. I don't want to be in his next movie, and that's final. Trudy was so gullible. Why she just didn't hang up on this crank and go back to sleep was beyond me. Instead, she gave me a look that could curdle milk, and holding her palm over the speaker would thrust the phone towards me. I am not one to give a real lot of advice, but listen to me this one time. Never, never ever marry a woman named Trudy. No matter if she is rich, beautiful, or pregnant, don't do it. You will live to regret it with every waking breath and in every nightmare. Trudy, Gertrude, Gertie. They hate the name. They hate writing it, listening to it. And no matter how it is said, it can never be said sexfully. Men who are married to Trudys are doomed to live forever because every day is like a year. Trust me, believe me, it is one of my only 3 basic rules of survival in this harsh world. The other 2, don't pick your dentist from an advertising sign on a bench. And 3rd, never trust a person that tells you to trust them. Finally, taking the phone, I said, "It's 2 a.m. Hi, it's only 11 where I am out on the coast. Well, on this coast, it's 2 a.m. Who are you and what do you want?" Steven Spielberg, and I'll get right to the point. Do you remember your English final in 8th grade? Listen, did my brother Myron put you up to this? Tell that worm that I'll get him back triple for this. He pulled a lot of idiotic stunts, but hey, I don't know your brother Myron, and I am Steven Spielberg. And if you give me your agent's name, I'll have my agent call him directly. Agent? Yes, your agent. Listen, Mr. Spielberg, call me Steve-O. Listen, Steve-O, I'm the produce manager at the local supermarket. Produce guys don't need agents. Getting back to your 8th grade English final. Do you remember it? No. Your assignment was to write a story, okay? You got an 89. It should have been higher. Punctuation. I don't want to discuss my punctuation. What's the point? I want to buy it. I don't have it. I know your teacher does. Mrs. Fernstrom? Yes, Helen Fernstrom. She wants to say the rights to my 8th grade story? No. Yes. She let me read your story and I want to buy it from you. Why? I like the plot. I think it'll make a good movie. A new Indiana Jones. Wait a minute. My story was about an 8th grade boy, some stolen athletic supporters, and an exploding locker. Right. Perfect. Indiana in 8th grade. Getting a start. Think about it. I'll have my girl call your girl in a couple of days. What does my daughter have to do with this? Marty, you're a funny man. I'm going to enjoy working on the screenplay with you. Wait, how do you know Mrs. Fernstrom? How did you get together? She knocked on my door one morning after seeing my last movie and said, "If you don't do this, you're making one big mistake." And you listen to her? I've always been intimidated by teachers. She told me she would take a finder's fee. I hung up, rolled over, ready to go back to sleep. Tomorrow was the day we set for me to do the Thomas Pair display, and I had to be at my best. Trudy would have none of it. What's going on? What did Steven Spielberg want? Trudy, I'm tired. I'll tell you tomorrow at breakfast. You'll tell me now or you won't live to see breakfast, my bride said. So I told Trudy the story, and in her Trudy style, she said, "Okay, we'll get my Uncle Morton to drop the papers. If your pal Steve-O thinks he's getting your story without paying points, he's got another thing coming. And there better be a part there for my mom. You know, she loves the movies and always wanted to be in one. And are you getting screenwriting credits? And if not, why not? Just because he's Steven Spielberg doesn't mean we have to let him walk all over us. I covered my head with my pillow and finally fell back asleep to the muffled sounds of Trudy yakking on about billing, credits, and multi-picture deals. Just before waking in the morning, after a fitful sleep, I had a dream. I don't usually dream, but in this one, Stallone, call me Sly, came by my saw and saw the Comic Spirit display and wanted to not only put the display in his next movie, but he offered me head of production products for him. Sly offered me points, a 3-picture deal, and the standard credits, plus artistic control over all fruits and vegetables. When you're hot, you're hot.
That was wonderful, Paul. Thank you. And also thank all 4 of you. You read great stories and very enjoyable. And I thank you all for agreeing to do it. I'm going to now read. Francine gave me an hour and a half to read, so I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Francine. So I'm just going to read a few stories from the new book. And I'll start with 1950s horror movie. Beautiful blonde, thick lips, skimpy gown, tossing in her sleep, seeing the grotesque face of a scarred man limping as he creeps toward her. She wakes. She screams, no hope. She faints. He carries her off to a cave in the hills. She begs for freedom. He grunts. Camera moves in for a close-up of his gory face. Next scene, he eats dinner, and we realize it is the blonde he is munching off as he limps off to find another victim. A frozen food commercial follows. This one is called Teenage Memories. Fickle they were, young girls, seduced by a car, preferably red, chosen over personality of youthful folly, swayed by the hum of the engine, the roll and tuck bench seat, and hooked on slick down hair combed into a DA, selected over a crew cut or a wiffle. Liz liked white t-shirt with a pack of Camels or Chesterfields wrapped in the sleeve. She was attracted by tight black chinos, thrilled by his lips caressing her, his hand roaming, her former boyfriend left behind, wishing he was old enough to drive. And I'll tell you, I lived in Youngstown, Ohio in the mid-50s. This was after Memphis Niles. And that was true of almost everybody there. This one has more than a drop of truth to it. It is graffiti in the Harvard Coop's men's room. Written above one of the urinals, someone wrote, "God is dead, Nietzsche." Underneath, another writing, "Nietzsche is dead, God." This one is called Louis XVI's Last Thought. Okay, so we fight over some silly thing, not unusual for 2 people used to fighting. I go to the florist, buy frozen, newly guillotined tulips to give her, which she throws on the floor, crushing them as if she's doing a Mexican hat dance or a flamenco dance, heels clomping on the linoleum floor. And that gets me to thinking about Louis XVI's last thoughts as the executioner ties his hands behind his back and places his head in the U-shaped slot. All the while, crowds cheer like a modern-day rock concert, waiting for the blade to snap his neck in two. The executioner pulls the sword, the cord sounding the scrape of metal on metal as the blade whirs its way down. Louis XVI thinks mad. People yell hooray. Common people celebrating the joy of liberty. They love the demise of the elite and raise their hands to God. Louis XVI's head is now in a basket while his blood flows and the crimson tide of French royalty soaks the stage and crowds cheer. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, she tramples my pride and apology, then orders me to clean up the mess. And I wonder, who cleans up after Louis XVI? Who takes the head from the basket and places it back on its royal owner? I'm going to read two more, and then I'm done. This one is called Directions. And if you've ever gone to Maine, you'll connect with this one. Lou Odell is dispatched to Paradise, Maine, and is told by his manager that a small fishing community needs more lobster traps to meet their monthly quota. Eager to see the Maine seacoast, Lou takes in his briefcase an order pad, 2 pens, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He is told it is a 3-hour ride, and he gets to a fork in the road in just under that time. At the side of the road is a man selling Maine blueberries, so Lou stops and asks him, if I continue straight ahead, do I get to Paradise? The man looks at him and says, yeah, 5 miles. Lou thanks him, and in 15 minutes on the small back road, he is in Paradise. He quickly finds the manager of Lobsters, Inc., and takes an order for 60 new traps. Going back to Boston, the manager asks, why, yes, noticed you came in on North Main Street. When you leave here, go that way. He says, pointing to South Main Street, go about a mile, take a left, it'll bring you to the highway. Thanking him, Lou follows the directions, which brings him back to the man selling blueberries. He stops and rolls down the window. I was here a while back and asked you about directions to Paradise. I asked if it was straight down the road, and you said yes, it was 5 miles going north. But it's only a mile and a half going west, Lou says. Yeah, you only asked you if you're going north, would take you to Paradise. Brad, you've been to Maine? Yeah, you know. So this is the last one I'll read. It's called, Niles will love this one because it's based on an old rock song as well. It's called Dirty Water, and the little epitaph that I write for it is, well, I love that dirty water. Oh, Boston, you're my home. And that was done by the Standells. They've been cleaning the Charles River for umpteen years now. They say you can swim in it, but are dredging for years, finding goose poop by the tons. You can see 50 or more geese and goslings swimming at one time. And when they eat, they poop. A few ducks here and there really don't matter, but geese are protected and no one knows why. You cannot use a gun, a bow and arrow, or slingshot. If you do, the goose protection police will get you. Of course, the same folks who protect the geese can be reporting on those who are out mugging lovers as they stroll, or they can report the rapist who is dragging some poor girl into the bushes to prove his power and rage. No one calls the people police to rescue any victim who dares walk or jog along the Charles River, even in broad daylight. If you really think it is safe to go swimming in the Charles, where the HMS Somerset was anchored on April 18th, 1775, think back again. Back then, it was much wider, and swimming probably a fun sport to the colonials and the British. It is filled over to build houses. Then sewer systems are added that empty into the venerable waterway. All sorts of sand and dirt and tools are heaved with sewage into the Charles, so that 200 years later, it is filthy and polluted. So polluted, in fact, that a song is written about it, so polluted that only catfish and bad bacteria survive. And if you go sailing all those years after the British warship patrolled, you need a tetanus shot to protect you against disease. So now they, whomever they are, say it is safe to swim again. But if you can't drink it, would you swim in it? And that's it. Thank you very much. And again, thank you to Niles and Andrea and Francine and Paul for their readings tonight that were just wonderful. And now, against my better wishes, I turn it back to Francine.
Zvi, you kill me. So that was wonderful. Your writing is so sharp and funny and witty and everything. So thank you very much for sharing it with us. And we can get your book on, I'm assuming, Amazon.
Amazon, Travana, Barber Press, or you can write to me at my name, which you see right there at Comcast.net. And thank you, Francine, for hosting tonight, and then Paul for turning it over to someone who's as talented as you.
Oh, blush, blush, blush. Thank you. So the next few readers are Sandra Arnold, Cindy Rosmus, Brad Rose, and then Bill Merklee and Jeff Harvey. And is there anybody else did I leave someone out that would really like to read a piece or something? Because we do have a little time, so okay, can let me know.
There was one thing I wanted to tell
Yes.
Carol Sessler, that I knew a Miriam Mandel years ago, but she changed her name to Marion.
Well, I figure there's some connection here because you're Sesling and she's a Sessler, so you're both you're Cecil. You like to sister Cecil somehow.
We're Sesses.
Right, you're Cecils, and you're a Sesling. You're
Yeah.
Sesling.
Well, it's actually the real name in Israel is Sesling. And when my father came here and was drafted into World War I, they changed it to Sesling because they said you don't want to sound like sizzling. So
Yes.
that's what happens. That's what happens to immigrants. Usually it's Ellis Island, but with my father it was Fort Sill.
Well, thank you very much, Zvi. Okay, now we're gonna move on to Sandra Arnold, who it always fascinates me. Sandra is in New Zealand, so it's Saturday morning there, and I'm just wondering, what she could tell us about the future, because she's in it right now. It's always amazing to me how that works. So I guess the world didn't blow up on Friday night, right, Sandra? So that's good to know for us who still have to experience it. Sandra Arnold's work includes 7 books, including her 2 2023 books, The Bones of the Story and Where the Wind Blows. Her short fiction has been published internationally and received nominations for the Best Small Fictions, Best Microfictions, and the Pushcart Prize, deservedly so, I might say. She has a PhD in creative writing from Central Queensland University, Australia. Sandra Arnold.
Thank you, Francine. I think anybody who has been involved in working in tertiary education will probably recognize the way bureaucracy has crept over so much in recent years, especially in the language, that it's becoming more and more like the corporate world. So that's what formed the basis of this story, focusing on the language. It's called The Absence of Hands. A seagull dipped and dived in a patch of sky outside the meeting room window. Maya watched its silent glide, while the head of department, or team leader as he now called himself, after his Engage and Empower course, talked about paradigm shifts and future proofing and target outcomes and growing their client base. The words seeped into Maya's bones, depleting her of the will to live. She looked at the faces of the other teachers, feigning interest, and the head of department's PowerPoint presentation, with its graphs and diagrams and strategies for incentivizing the team to ensure core competencies in order to action best practice deliverables going forward. She wondered what would happen if the team just stood up and walked out, despite the surreptitious watch checking to see how much time was left of their lunch break. Before they could creep back to their desks to gulp down their sandwiches and coffee before afternoon class, no one wanted to be targeted in the next round of restructuring. Maya had no dependents and had a contract from the days when the institution had used rewards. So what kept her glued to her seat listening to this drivel? The hope of tenure? Promotion? She turned back to the window. Sunlight flashed on the seagull's wings as it wheeled and vanished from her line of sight. The head of department turned back to the screen, deaf to muted sighs, and called for blue sky thinking from the team to co-create a synergy. Maya turned away from the empty patch of sky and slipped off the end of her row and out the door. In the staff room, she left her reports and essays in neat piles on her desk. The one thing she hadn't yet completed was her work plan for the following week. Leaving tasks undone didn't come easily, but she left the unfinished work plan beside the essays, picked up her bag, took out her keys, walked out the room, closed the door, and without a backward glance, strode across the campus to her car. Some of her students waved as she passed. She waved back and felt a fleeting pang. Then she remembered the head of department's opening remarks about impending future downsizing, or skill mix adjustment, as he preferred to call it, and the absolutely vital, he couldn't emphasize this strongly enough, importance of upskilling, although that would have to be undertaken in their own time, as the budget wouldn't allow employing relievers. Each department would be running their own professional development classes every weekend for 6 weeks, he said. And the CEO had particularly expressed the hope that all staff would participate. He added that the sessions would include IT staff mentoring teachers in the use of the new cutting-edge technology that the institution had just spent a small fortune on. He ignored the sudden fidgeting and said he would be asking for volunteers to coordinate the facilitators and keep track of the documentation, which included keeping records of when and how each staff member used the technology. And it would be really great if at the end of 6 weeks, everyone gave a presentation on how the sessions had incentivized them to incorporate the new technology into their course delivery. We need to keep current, he reminded them. We need to maintain our cutting edge. He realized he'd made a joke and gave a little chuckle. We need to remember that none of us is irreplaceable, especially if we keep churning out the same old, boring our client base witless. In case his audience hadn't quite grasped what he was saying, he continued. To give an example, we might think we're irreplaceable. For instance, I might believe I was essential to the smooth running of this department because I've done it for so long. But in fact, if I left my position tomorrow, the effect would be equivalent, say, to withdrawing my hand from a bucket of water. Blank looks, a few sideways glances. What I mean to say is, sure, there'd be a ripple or two at first, but then he shrugged and smiled. Maya reflected that it was the most insightful remark she'd ever heard him make. She turned the key in the ignition and headed for the highway. When the city lights dimmed behind her, she saw shooting stars in the sky. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Sandra. That was beautiful, wonderful story read in your enchanting voice. It's really just so lovely to listen to you. Thank you very much for reading, Sandra Arnold. Next, we have Cindy Rosmus. Cindy Rosmus is originally from the Ironbound section of Newark, New Jersey, once voted the unfriendliest city on the planet. Wow. And it shows in her writing. She is the editor, art director of the crime fiction webzine Yellow Mama, which is fantastic. Cindy Rosmus.
Thanks, guys. And Sandra, I'm still floored by hearing you read. I'm always at the edge of my seat. You're like my idol. Well, this is a story that it's not like Sandra's at all. It actually appeared in Shotgun Honey at one point, but this is an edited version. I edited it for you guys. Not much, though. Try to clean it up. It's called Daphne and That Lawyer Who Drinks. Yeah, you know him. That lawyer who drinks, who defended Daphne, that bitch with the feathers and fishnets when she knifed that boozy redhead in the bar. Yeah, in the back, with a box cutter. Because she called Daphne an ugly fucking psycho. Daphne said indignantly, like she was a princess instead of a crazy slut in fishnets and feathers, am not a fucking psycho. No, she didn't deny ugly. Huh? Because I was there. Yeah, so the whole thing. So that lawyer who drinks defended Daphne after she sliced the redhead. Huh? I forget her name. Let's call her Red, because she had cherry red hair. No, she's not dead. That's the whole point of it. Just let me talk. But I don't even know her name. I just knew Red was nobody to be fucked with. So the lawyer shows up in court an hour later, smashed beyond human comprehension, booze dribbling out of his nose and mouth. Huh? I was there too. Let me finish. Where was it? Oh, yeah. Daphne was sat there, gnawing on a chicken drumstick. What? Probably from KFC. Just look at her, the lawyer said, slurring away. Can't you see she don't know what she's doing? That she's not responsible for this crime. Look at her, he says. Look at him, we're all thinking. By now, Daphne had finished eating and was picking her teeth with a match right there in court. Red was glaring at both of them. The toothpicking psycho and the South mouthpiece. A box cutter? The lawyer said sarcastically. Really? The judge looked bored, and the prosecutor tried not to laugh. All this fuss, the lawyer went on, over just already he'd forgotten the word. I looked at Red to see if she was even sitting funny after being stabbed in the back. She wasn't, but she still looked out for revenge, even over, quote, just a box cutter. So Daphne got off it like a warning. No big deal, the judge must have thought. Just two biker chicks knifing each other over dumb shit. Except neither of them rode, and only one had a knife. Well, that's what we thought. Red left the courtroom first in a huff. In the doorway, she suddenly turned and glared so hard at Daphne and that drunk lawyer I expected thunder to clap. Then she split. Hours later, at the bar up the block, there was the gruesome twosome, both so boozed up they were falling off the stools. Mind you, it was the same bar where Daphne had stabbed Red in the back. I thought balls or what? Huh? Yeah, because I was there. How else would I know? And the lawyer was so bombed, nobody would let him drive. Somebody had to call Uber. And guess who was driving the car? They were both so smashed to realize it, plus she had her cherry red hair up in a Yankees cap. It wasn't until they got there that he realized it wasn't his house. Just a box cutter, Daphne and Nick read with. But Red had it all, man. Butcher knives, switchblades, bowies, a hacksaw. Ever see Hostel? Clearly Red did too. Some people are just crazy. Like some psycho butcher, she got into it, slicing and chopping away so the walls were painted the same color as her hair. Bloody feathers, too, like she butchered a peacock. What a sight, man. Now what? 'Cause I was there. And if I were you, I'd shut the fuck up right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy Rosmus, One Woman Crime Wave. That was amazing, Cindy, and I love your voice as well. I mean, it's just so perfect for your content. It's just
Thank
great.
you.
Great. Thank you for reading for us. Next up is Brad Rose. Brad Rose was born and raised in Los Angeles and lives in Boston. He is the author of 5 collections of poetry and flash fiction. You are also accomplished. Lucky Animals, No Wait, I Can Explain, Pink X-Ray, Detonations, and Momentary Turbulence. His poetry collection, Word in Edgewise, is forthcoming. His website is www.bradrosepoetry.com, and you should go visit if you want to read some good stuff. But right now, we'll listen to the wonderful Brad Rose.
Thanks so much, Francine. That's really way too kind. I must say, though, I refuse to follow Cindy's reading. It's just, I'm just going to embarrass myself. And I also wanted to congratulate Zvi on his new book. It's really great that he's bringing forth yet a new set of stories, because he's really good. I wanted to tell Zvi that, just before I start, that not only have I been to Maine, I actually saw the Standells play, and they played at my high school, California, 1,000 years ago. But anyway, so let me, I'm going to read a couple of pieces here, actually maybe 3. First one is called Another Pirate Story. At the Pentagon, the holiday spirit is in full swing. Cannibalism tends to bring people together. Fortunately, I'm not in touch with myself, although, like opposable thumbs, I don't take it personally. This year, Satan is doing my income taxes. He's a likable enough guy, although he says he finds it's too dark in the shadows and too bright in the light. Of course, that's not necessarily going to put food on the table. While some say there is safety in numbers, there is no safety, only numbers. In fact, in spite of my wanton attitude toward pleasure, carnality, and decadence, I don't care for your reckless, cheating ways. You are, however, my treasure island, my little mermaid. That's why I wear this eye patch, shoulder a chatty parrot, and sport a wooden leg. That's why, whenever I sail toward your lush and verdant isle, the bumper sticker on the stern of my galleon reads, "How's my driving?" The next piece is Insurrectionist. After the scavenger hunt, I turned myself in. My get-rich-quick scheme yielded more sticks than you can shake a stick at, so I thought it was best to quit while I was ahead. It's hard to hit a home run even in Little League. The last thing you want to do is overthink it. Sometimes I wish I had one of those automatic lives, the ones with the Kafka-esque underbrush and the Darth Vader hedge funds. But sadly, there are no easy answers, only laid-back pop quizzes. They're a great source of dietary fiber. Yesterday, I visited my dermatologist for my annual checkup. While I was waiting in the waiting room, which is one of the optimal places to wait, I noticed the office mood music was "I've Got You Under My Skin." Some people are willing to bend over backwards to go that extra mile. You got to give them credit. Of course, it's not easy being a spokesmodel for a losing cause, but fortunately, vengeance makes the heart grow fonder. Next time, we'll be sure to throw those bums out of office. You can't run a country on free-form dancing and all the Chablis you can drink. There's always more to good riddance than meets the eye. If you want to join forces, Text me. Next piece is called War Crimes. Their dead won't bring back our dead, those hoarders. Don't they know the first rule of war in the entertainment industries is don't bore your audience, not with a 10-foot pool. Last week, I was looking into my two-way, one-way mirror, introspecting to the best of my ability, like eating only healthiest versions of food that's bad for you, when another blessing in disguise arrived just in the nick of time. I got the secret recipe for Dolly Parton's 5-layer cookout casserole. Sure, its out-of-this-world texture is on the verge of palatable, but it's already ruined my reputation in 6 of the lower 48 states. Of course, in this great land of ours, there's a wide range of what counts as success, but don't go counting your bricks before your chickens hatch. Incidentally, for convenience sake, all the charges of willful killing, torture, and mutilation have been dropped by the International Criminal Court. I don't think they would have stuck. They're only misdemeanors. Anyway, last piece, pretty short. This is going to be in right-hand pointing, I think, pretty soon. It's called An Underappreciated Fact About Cannibals. Excuse me. You can tell a lot about a place by the conviviality of its organ donors. For example, my bank has a relationship manager, and not just for marital emergencies. I guess everybody wants special treatment, although I'm not sure whether the sign on the window says don't panic or don't picnic. Naturally, you can expect a few trade-offs here and there, but they're bound to happen whenever you count your blessings. Just because people eat people doesn't mean they're merely cannibals. They have other talents. Some are in sales. Thank you.
Sorry, my mute button is like not working right tonight, but thank you so much, Brad. That was wonderful. Everything we would have expected you to be, because you're just wonderful. So thank you for reading, sharing your wonderful work with us. Next, we're going to hear, we have a couple of bonus readers tonight. Bill Merklee is one. Bill Merklee's work has appeared in numerous journals and was included in Best Microfiction 2021 and nominated for Best Small Fictions 2022 and 24. Most recently, he's been shortlisted for the 2024 Beth Novella in Flash Award, and I'm sending you good vibrations for that, Bill. That's a good thing to get.
Thank you.
Bill Merklee.
Thank you, Francine, and congratulations. I can talk. Congratulations on the book, Zvi. I'm just going to read a micro. It's called, it was published in Switch last month, and it's called Birthday. In the NICU, a chorus of machines makes it seem like Darth Vader is around every corner. You are sleeping inside a bright, warm bubble. Wires run from under your blanket to screens that spell out the opening lines of your story. 6 weeks early and barely 6 pounds, but breathing on your own. You had revealed a secret, so doctors plucked you from that dark, warm ocean to save you from waves of poison meant to save your mother. How many people almost get to be heroes before they're born? One day I will tell you how I stepped from that hospital onto streets newly washed by a passing storm, the air a sweet mix of cut flowers and bus fumes, and how my heart swelled as I misread a rainbow over Washington Heights. Thanks.
Oh, fantastic, Bill. I love that image of the lines on the screen spelling out the opening of your story. What a wonderful image that is. Great story. The rest of the story was great too. So thank you for jumping in there.
Thanks for asking.
Bill Merklee. And Jeff Harvey is also a bonus reader tonight. Jeff Harvey grew up near Memphis and now lives in San Diego. He grows avocados, lemons, and orchids. That's really nice. His fiction has appeared in Moon Park Review, Five South, Bending Genres, Pigeon Review, and Flora Fiction. He's recently launched Gooseberry Pie, which is really kind of exciting. It's an online magazine for 6-sentence stories, which is kind of challenging to write a 6-sentence story. So good luck on that endeavor, and congratulations on that. Jeff Harvey.
Thank you. This is an excerpt from my fictional memoir, Fancy People Always Order White Wine. 1980, my first place in San Francisco was a room at the YMCA for $30 a week. Showers and toilets down the hall, like a college dorm. I kept waiting for a burly fireman or a dirty cop to knock on my door and guide me through the YMCA experience. As I was getting out of the elevator late one night, a bookkeeper named George invited me to his room. He asked me to paint my toenails neon green. Nope. Stories began appearing in the media about a gay cancer, guys dying in London and New York and now San Francisco. But you couldn't catch gay cancer, could you? It was another year before anyone knew it was a virus. The weekly gay rag Bay Area Reporter started running an obituaries column. 1 or 2 at first, but not long before 20 or more. Brian worked in Turkey for the U.S. Embassy and returned to the Bay Area when he found out he was sick. We worked together and became friends. Peter wore bow ties, had his hair freshly trimmed once a week, and always carried a Wall Street Journal. He broke down one Tuesday morning at work, sat on the floor, and began pulling pieces of lint off the carpeting and brought them over to show me the bugs. I walked him into a conference room. He had no one to call for help. His dad had stopped talking to him years ago. Jimmy's obituary appeared on Valentine's Day. He was from Memphis and moved to San Francisco a few months before I did. I'd met him at a party at Keith's back home. His smell reminded me of freshly laundered sheets. I saw Garth's obit and cut it out. Eventually, the newspaper yelled and I threw it away. He was from South Carolina and wanted to be an actor. We were never close friends, but I often bumped into him at In Touch on Polk Street. Garth's deep blue eyes and blonde hair reminded me of Paul Newman. Last time we danced for hours and went for burgers at Grub Steak. Garth had the best laugh.
Thank you, Jeff. That was
Thanks.
very poignant. Yeah. So thank you to everyone for coming tonight and listening and for reading, and especially to Zvi Sesling with his new book. And I hope you'll all Secret Behind the Gate, and I hope you'll all find a way to buy it and hear more of Zvi's wonderful stories. And thank you to Paul Beckman for allowing me to take the wheel tonight. I very much enjoyed it. I always enjoy doing that. And to all of the readers and to all of the listeners. And I'm going to turn on the recording, but if you're in the Zoom room, you can hang out for a few minutes. But I want to thank for everybody listening, and Paul Beckman's F-Bomb International Flash Fiction Reading. And we'll be back next month. Thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you, Francine.
Thank you, Francine.